3 Elden Ring weapons. Loads of people miss them. I'll show you their locations as well as some sneaky tricks in how to use them. The weapons, I mean, not the people. Okay, first on the list of rare and underrated Elden Ring weapons, it's the Watchdog's staff. I love this weapon. It's a strength weapon with the best ranged attack for a strength build that I've seen in the whole game, and it's completely unique as well. The Watchdog staff scales with the weapon level only. It doesn't matter what level you are, that doesn't affect the weapon's power. It only matters how many times you've upgraded it and what upgrade level it's on. And I don't really think there's another weapon that works like that in the whole game. I might be wrong, let me know in the comments if I am. But anyway, since the weapon is so uncommon, it can really catch people off guard in PvP. The strategy around using the Watchdog staff centers on the Ash of War, as the projectiles have really good tracking, so they're home right in on your opponent. Added to that, they aren't too fast either, which means you can cast it, then rush in alongside the magic, giving your opponent 2 attacks to watch out for rather than just the one. This lets you really get the pressure on who you're fighting. Usually colossal weapons only have one really strong attack, but the Watchdog staff has 2 in the Ash of War and the heavy attack, meaning that it covers up a major weakness of colossal weapons. But what if you're fighting 2 people rather than 1? The Watchdog staff was made for this. Just lock onto the first enemy and use the Ash, then attack a different person. The projectile will keep the first enemy busy while you attack the second. This is a weapon that's capable in both 1v1 and 2v1 encounters and really good against crowds too, as you can see. That's if you don't get too confident and get whacked a bunch of times like me. So that's good, but let's see if we can increase the damage even more. And for that, we're gonna need talismans. The talismans to use on the Watchdog staff are the Shard of Alexander, Ritual Sword Talisman, Magic Scorpion Charm, and the Carrion Filigreed Crest, which decreases FP consumption from 15 to 12. You can also wear the Spellblade set for increased Ash of War damage as well. For a little extra juice, slot the Spiked Cracktare and Magic Shrouding Cracktare into your flask. And if you really want to go all out on the damage for this thing, cast the Terra Magica spell, which boosts magic damage by 35%, and Golden Vow, which boosts all attacks by 15% and defense by 10%. With all these talismans, armor, and physic flask tears, you will be unstoppable. So cast your stuff, take a swig from the flask, then just do your thing. It's great. And if you want the staff for yourself, here's where to get it. Cranial vessel candlestand. Now, people sleep on this weapon, but it's so much fun. Basically, it's someone's head mounted to a candle stand. The description goes that the monk called Birak was so annoyed by his fellow monks' laziness, he cut off his own head to motivate them. Someone then grabbed the head and they stuck it on a candlestick, and now we have the Cranial Vessel candle stand, which is a great hammer scaling in strength and faith with one of the best Ashes of War in the whole game. This is called Surge of Faith, and it rains down fireballs on enemies in a huge area of effect attack. If you keep pressing the button, you'll continue to hold the weapon aloft, spewing fire, and the attack power was even increased in October's patch, making it even more potent. Now, the downsides of this weapon are that its light and heavy attacks are a little slow, and there are other great hammers out there that do more damage, but that Ash of War makes it unique, both in PvP and in single player. In single player, what I like to do to get the most out of this weapon is use the Fire Scorpion Charm, which gives you more fire damage, and the Shard of Alexander, which raises whatever Ash of War you're using. Then cast Flame Grant Me Strength and Golden Vow, which all boost the fire damage of the Ash of War, and use the Flame Shrouding Cracktare in your flask as well. Once that's done, this absolutely melts enemies. It's particularly good against massive enemies that you can get right under, so things like trolls, giants, and also dragons. Surprisingly good against Radagon if you're having trouble there, as Radagon is weak to fire. But in terms of PvP, there's also a great use for this, and that's in making yourself untouchable. When you use the Ash, you'll unleash a shockwave that knocks anyone in the vicinity backwards, then the fire comes out, which has a high chance of staggering and burning players trying to get to you. And if they do get to you, you will have the poise to withstand an attack without getting interrupted, as the Ash of War gives you temporary hyper armor, increasing your poise. This makes the weapon good during invasions, as players in invasions are more inclined to actively come towards you, and then you can stay rooted to the spot and just blast them away. Again, melee attacks scale with strength on this weapon, while Ash of War damage scales with faith. So to optimize this weapon, I would get the minimum strength requirement to wield it, and then level up your faith as much as you can, and that will optimize the Ash of War. So that's the Cranial Vessel Candlestand. Bit of a situational weapon, but really unique in that you don't really see it very often. To get your hands on it, thankfully you don't have to kill a boss or farm endless enemies. It's located in Giant Conquering Hero's grave, and it's on a corpse behind an imp statue, so make sure to bring in 2 stone sword keys to get past the imp.
Any ideas?
Last on our list of rare Elden Ring weapons most people haven't got or don't use, it's Varre's Bouquet. Now, I'm going to be honest, this one is awful. Truly, truly bad. It's rare, and not a lot of people have it because getting it is quite a process, but this might genuinely be the worst weapon in the game. It's a mace shaped like a bunch of flowers, but the flowers are metal and have razor sharp edges, which is a cool concept, but in practice, sadly, the damage it does is very much like what you would get by hitting someone with an actual bunch of flowers. So let's just go through its shortcomings one by one. It's the second shortest hammer in the game, so its range is awful. It uses a thrusting Ash of War despite being a hammer, which is pretty useless. Its base damage is abysmal. Its dual-wielding moveset is horrible, and everyone ignores you when you use them in a romantic gesture. Absolutely nothing. Literally, if someone in PvP hits you with this, you feel bad for them. But as with most Elden Ring weapons, there's always a way to get something out of it. And this is one such way, maybe the only way to get something out of it. And to do that, this tactic revolves around using Varre's Bouquet as a buff for your crossbow. It's a fact that's kind of passed some players by, but you can buff crossbows with the weapon in your other hand. So equip Varre's Bouquet in your right hand and a seal in your left hand. Now use the Bloodflame Blade incantation. Bloodflame Blade will enhance your right hand with Festering Bloodflame, which can inflict enemies with the Hemorrhage debuff. The Hemorrhage debuff, if you didn't know, applies extra damage to an enemy, which is 15% of their max health. Once you've cast Bloodflame Blade, use the Fire's Deadly Sin incantation to set yourself on fire. This makes your bolts do fire damage. Next, whip out your pulley crossbow on your left hand and just start shooting. Your bolts are now doing both bleed damage and fire damage, courtesy of the flowers. I mean, there are of course other weapons you can do this combo with that outperform Varre's Bouquet, but few look as good as walking around with a flaming bunch of flowers. Very emo. Now, if you use this tactic in PvP, you might be considered unsportsmanlike, but personally I say everything in the game is there for you to use, and if it works, use it. And there is a counter to it. Opponents can just cast Law of Regression and negate your whole strategy, so be on the lookout for that. Anyway, that was Varre's Bouquet. Cool looking weapon, but trash in every other respect. But if you did want to get this rarely seen weapon for yourself, although I don't see why you would, you have to do the questline of White Mask Varre. He drops the weapon after you invade him in Mogwin Dynasty and defeats him. So those were 3 uncommon, underrated Elden Ring weapons. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, leave a like and subscribe for more Elden Ring videos.